ụlọ nsọ gị Chukwu ka ị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka ị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya.
Otuto niile dịrị Chineke, ọbasi dị elu, Chukwu obiọma, Chidi ebere, Olisa nwa amara, ka ụzọ anyị niile ọbụla bụrụ ihe, ka ihe ọbụla kpatara aka bụrụ sọ mma, ka ụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anyị a mụsa obi aṅụrị taa mgbe niile ebighị ebi. Ọfọ ya gazie ise. All praises to Chi the Creator, the Supreme Being, Chi the Good, Chi the Merciful, Chi magnificent with grace. Let every way of our lives be light. Let all our acts be crowned with good. May the world prosper from our ministry, now and forever. So let it be. Amen. Love is the highest spirituality. Any religion that cannot make its adherents to love, tolerate, and live in harmony with members of other religions is no religion at all. The mutual killings, ravaging the religious fronts everywhere on earth tells just one sad story. Just now, the world has no true religion. It is this vacuum that chiism has come to fill, to preach love and live love as a re-emergence of the divine spiritual civilization of Biri Kambiri, live and let live, from ancient Africa. Anayin Kama Onyoha, my father. Welcome to another edition of Chiism Live. Yagazie to all. The world is chaotic right now. There are a lot of people suffering. There are people in pain. There are people starving all over the world. There are people that used to receive aid that don't receive any aid anymore. We have starving children. We have parents cradling their babies in their hands, mothers looking at their children, dying in their arms, fathers helpless, watching their families obliterated in South Sudan. One of the greatest genocide going on right now in Gaza with Palestine. Humanity is at a crossroads right now, and we have to ask ourselves very important questions before we follow the deep end, before we repeat the chaos of 1939 that ravaged the world for so many years, up until 1945. But the manipulation that goes on behind, the manipulation of nations that are trying to rise, but are being stepped on. We pray to Chineke. We pray that humanity understands that there is no distance between us and our Chi, our Chukwu, our Creator, between us and God. God is here in your heart. The God you seek is you, is your neighbor. Do unto others as you would like Chineke, as you would like God to do unto you. Love thy neighbor. And hopefully you love yourself. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Have an understanding that every human being has a right to worship God in the way they understand best without bitterness. Because what God means to you may be different from what God means to somebody else. I remember driving my dad long time ago. I was 18 years old. And in the car, he was in the back seat, and he said to me, even a thief prays to God before they go and steal. And if they steal successfully, guess who gets the credit? The thief will go to church and thank God for a successful burglary. This is where we are in the world today, thinking that we could paint God, that we could have this broad definition of who and what God is based on our own definition and understanding, and not realizing that other races and cultures also have the same rights that we proclaim, that we have to profess our beliefs. They have the right too. Unless you believe that Chineke, God didn't create those people, that somehow God made a mistake, but then in your holy books, you paint God as perfect. You tend to understand that good and evil exist in this world. And if you believe that Chineke, that God created everything, but you must now understand that that belief solidifies the notion that good and evil is divine. In their funny way, nobody likes terrible things to happen to them. Nobody appreciates evil, people stealing from you, murders. Nobody appreciates those kinds of things. We all, across all religious lines, hate that kind of stuff. We preach against that kind of stuff. When we coddle good, if you coddle evil, it's opposite. Not only is it opposite, now some people, in the guise of good, will do evil. Con and fool everybody. Blame other people for our own problems and issues, for our own misunderstanding, for our own refusal to learn, to be courageous, to live love, give love, and understand that without love, humanity will continue its chaos of, historical timelines of murders and hate and killing. You would think that in modern times we have evolved to a point where, due to the advances in technology, medicine, economic science, all that stuff, that we should be in a place where we appreciate humanity just a little better than we did 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 500 years ago. But when I lift the curtains, the veil of advancement, I come to realize that humanity has never changed. We're still evil. We still love. We're still doing the same things we did 1,000 years ago. We're just doing it a little bit more efficiently. We're stealing a little bit more efficiently because of technology and evolution. We're killing a little bit more efficiently because of science. We now have developed the worst form of discrimination and racism by presenting a creator that doesn't look like those people who are having their throats stepped on, where Stockholm Syndrome becomes the order of the day. You get to thank your kidnapper just because he gave you something to eat, and then you forgot that he kidnapped you in the first place. This is what we are in this world, not just as Black people, but all over the world. We're all thinking the same way. But hopefully, with programs such as Chiism Live, there are lots of forums out here in the World Wide Web, on YouTube, that is also trying to mitigate this disconnect between our cultures. between all religions, between all political affairs. Chiism tends to give us a better understanding of cross-cultural pollination. So with that being said, I'm not trying to bore you with my diatribe this morning, but after hearing some disturbing news, I had to speak up a little bit and at least share how I feel about what's going on in the world today. Joining me today is Dibe Chiedozie Okoro, the Dean of History and Culture, Chase University, and also Dean of African History in University of Lagos. Welcome aboard, Okemadu Kyle. Thank you. Today, we're really going to, delve into, you could speak and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about along the lines of economic development, what it is we're missing when it comes to economic development. What do you really need to anchor economic development for people of African ancestry, not just on the continent, but globally? How do we connect ourselves globally, economically, so that we can understand that diasporan Africans have the same interests as Africans in the motherland? We're one and the same, whether you're Jamaican, Haitian, wherever it is you come from. If you're Black, African, we share the same history, and we must share the same destiny, because when they're coming for you, they're not asking you if you're Jamaican. They're not asking you if you're from Nigeria. They're not asking you if you're a British Black or Australian Aborigine or African American. They just see a Black person, an African, and we're all getting the same racist, injustices, regardless of where you reside in this world as a person of African ancestry. What say you, Okemadu? What do you think?
Yeah, good afternoon, all. So before I answer that question, I'd like just to say, standing on African spirituality,
hold on just a second. I forgot to let everybody know, because I'm sure they're wondering, where is where's the host of the show? I forgot to mention that, right? She's not necessarily feeling up to it today, okay? But she's watching the program and, making sure that we're straight and that things are rolling along like it's supposed to. So we appreciate her so much. We really do. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Now, over to you.
Yes, so okay, Dibe Kao. Yeah, Kankao, Nahike, Nahudo. Yes, so just a prayer for all of us, particularly our hosts, and our co-hosts, and all of us watching, that we will live long in good health and sound mind. And so, standing on African spirituality, and African spirituality is diverse. So everyone will have to begin from his own father's homestead, mother's homestead. So standing on Igbo spirituality today is Ore, Oriental. Ore generally is a principle of wind, and one of the 4 key elements that sustains our environment. And it's Oriental, meaning that it is Ore of the female element of air. And the air is a messenger. It pervades everywhere, so that whatever we say here in Nigeria, we can hear it anywhere on this earth. So that is why this particular program is going on. Without Ore, the principle and element of wind, this program would not be possible, because transmission is made possible by the air. And that's why our people say, the air is a messenger, because it's the carrier of all the messages, that the carrier of sounds and vibrations. It's made possible, the interchange and exchange is made possible by Ore. And so, that being said, I like us to have one mind.
Yes.
One spirit.
Yes.
One soul.
Yes.
It is when we have these, that we can muster force. And so based on that, I would say, let us begin the journey by going inwards.
Yes. Out
there are problems. The solutions are not out there. The solutions are inside us.
True.
So a journey inwards is a journey into self.
Yes.
And there are two spaces, the outer space that is before us and the inner space that is inside us. And the inner space inside us is as vast, versatile, and boundless, endless, and unlimited as the outer space before us. So as it is above, so it is within.
Yes.
But to realize who we are by the inner space is the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
It's easier to master the outer space. Or let me not say master. It is easier to play in the outer space. But if you do not take charge of the inner space, then you cannot master and control the outer space.
Yes.
So that's where we must begin our realization for economic prosperity. There can be no economic prosperity for Africa, no matter how we sing it, because what we are saying today, I has said it several, Zeke said it several times, Ahani said it several times, he echoed it from the spiritual foundation for it, Nkrumah, Zeke, a host of them, even the musicians, Peter McIntosh, wherever you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs.
Fela Kuti reminded us, Shetiwani miofe, Shetiwani miora. Is it our own? I don't want. Is it our own? The African one, I won't buy. And he said, buy Africa. If we don't buy, if we don't sell and buy Africa, who will sell us? Who will buy us?
Thank you. Thank you.
So at he also reminded us in Yoruba, Shetiwani miofe, Shetiwani. Innocent is here. We are not patronizing innocent.
Thank you. Absolutely.
We are not patronizing. Abba made is there. We condemn it, Abba made. The money made by us, we say is Ijebu money. We have been messed up in the mind by the colonizers that everything about us is illicit. Our gene is illicit. All our products are illicit. Even our religion is hidden and a mystic. So we have been brought up to have self-hate.
Yes.
To loathe our spirituality. And remember, spirituality is the key for the inner journey that will now metamorphose into the outer mastery. So once you hate your spirituality, you loathe yourself.
Yep.
Then you cannot master any economic force.
Yes, sir.
So, it's
true.
Na felasa, na back we take water, so that don't put everybody for reverse. You cannot, by going back, and that back, you don't have real light, no mirrors to look at the back. Of course, you are heading into.
You remember that? You remember that song about on left, on right, on quick match?
Yes, so yes, so zombie. So before you can have monster, economic force, commercial force, entrepreneurial force, managerial force, all kinds of force that you need, you must understand your spirituality.
He said, truth.
And your spirituality cannot master without your language.
True that.
Because a people without a language of their own do not have a culture.
He said, oh,
if they do not have a culture,
repeat that again. Say that again, please.
A people without their own spirituality don't have a language.
Thank you.
If you don't have a language, you don't have a culture.
Yeah.
If you don't have a culture, you don't have a mindset.
Yeah.
If you don't have a mindset, then individually, you don't have minds. You are zombies.
Zombies, man.
And with that mind and mindset, no morals, no ethics, ability to create balance, ability for self-collectivity, the sense of our own will not be there. What you are going to have is extreme individualism. That's what you are going to have, extreme individualism. And when there's extreme individualism, you cannot muster economic force. You cannot muster a commercial force. You will become victims of other people's economic systems, commercial system, managerial system. Because first and foremost, you become victims of other people's spirituality. Once you key into the spirituality of others, you key into their religion. And then you have become their own convert.
Stooges.
Once you are their own convert, then you participate in their economy, in their managerial system, in their entrepreneurship system. You become consumers, buyers who do not produce anything. Because there can be no economy without industry. And the whole thing is in your spirituality, because your spirituality determines your mindset. Your mindset defines your culture, your ideology, your understanding of the cosmos, your understanding of the human personality in relation to the cosmos. That determines your engineering. That determines your industry. That determines your military, your economy, everything. Like Dibby Ochaja and I were discussing about the Jews. Everything you talk about mathematics, pi r square, is about the Jewish understanding that this mouth pronounces 22 words. And the circle you are talking about is this mouth. The diameter is this divide that divides the upper lips from the lower lips. So for them, the totality of the words you can speak is 22 or are 22, the letters. That is why for them, if you go to the Jewish culture, they have only 22 letters. You see? So everything they do, Einstein took the E equals to mc squared. He took it from the Jewish spirituality, which is taken from African spirituality. Don't forget that the Jews grew into spirituality in ancient Egypt.
Yes, true.
430 years. They took the Egyptian spirituality of a cyclical world view in which the driver of that world is inside it. It has a force. That's what determines the conservative principle. A body with energy inside it. Once there's space, can move. Once there's kinetic energy. So with that, you can understand a universe that drives, in which intelligence that drives it is innate. That's pure pantheism and vitalism. This is pure African spirituality. So everything we read about Einstein, in fact, if you read Einstein's physics, you think you are reading metaphysics. And he kept saying he's talking about physics. He's not talking about metaphysics. Yet, if you go deep and read everything about Einstein, you go back to your spirituality in Okigwe, in Mporo, in Abriba, in Ife, in Kiswahili, in Ashanti. It's the same.
Yep.
But we think we don't understand, we don't have science because we do not even understand our spirituality. So you cannot go further than your shadow.
True,
I will cut it short here, but I also like to pay a tribute to those who are in disarray, to those who are pain and hurt about the black man's plight. You wake up every day and you think that you cannot forage. Please, you can. You have to find the strength within you. What happens outside you, you are not in control. But how you control what happens outside you from within defines who you are. You cannot, by hate, live in the world. You can only live in the world by love. Let love overshadow everything. And that's the only one spirituality that will harmonize all humankind, which chiism preaches. That there is only one link that ties, only one rope that ties all spirituality, all religion, and that is humanity. Because if you look at all the religions, all spirituality, there's no spirituality that denies that there is an ultimate force from which everything originated. There's no spirituality that says stealing is good. There's no spirituality that does not have a holy day. There's no spirituality that does not have a name for the Almighty. There's no spirituality that does not have a method of worship. There's no spirituality that says that killing is good, stealing is good, coveting is good, that the virtues are bad. All spirituality speak this. That is why if you come to chiism, different African cultures, different African people, within the same culture, you have so many deities. And all of these deities, what tied them together is humanity. So that if you go down to Igbo spirituality, for instance, whatever you belong to, whether you belong to Amadioha, you belong to Ajoku, Njoku, you belong to your deity is Allah, your deity is Anyangwang, whichever one, the foundation and all of them connecting point is Ofonogu.
He said
the principle of cosmic balance.
Yep.
Truth it permeates everything. You go to the Yoruba, it is Ifa. When you go into Ifa, you see the do's and don'ts of the world. And then the Yoruba, the Igbo West word for the human being is Mando, Made, the beauty of life, the beauty that is God's representative on earth that will manage the earth itself on behalf of God by way of balance. Yoruba call it Eniyan, one who has the ability to choose. The path you choose determine how far you go and prosper.
He said,
so that everything you do, you are responsible for it. That is why for traditional African religion, be it those in Ghana, those in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, our traditional religion says there is no forgiveness. You must look before you leap. And you cannot toy with humanity and say you made a mistake. It is not allowed.
Yeah.
That is why you must carry the symbol of truth, justice, equity, and fairness of Onogu. That before you become a leader, you must attain the height of the virtues. You must be an encapsulation of the virtues themselves. You must be seen to radiate Mando before you can hold Ofonogu. That whatever you say, before you say, think, or utter, you must weigh the consequences. Maka okwu kureku wa akwawarawa ade achi achukwa ya azu. The utterance you make is a broken egg. You cannot bring it back again.
You can't bring it back.
So for us, you must consider everything as a leader before you proceed. You do not make utterances and then say, no, I made a mistake the other time.
So that's just to buttress what you're saying. Okay, Mado, just to buttress what you just said right now. In Nkoro, we say, Mama no lankembo, nkabo, boga. Once it comes out, it's not coming back in.
No.
So you got to watch it, because what comes out here can change the world. It can change your life. It can change somebody else's life, good or bad. Because your word sometimes is your intention. Sometimes you don't even realize it. And then you go, no, I didn't mean that. No, yes, you did. It came out. You were thinking it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come out of your mouth. It was in your subconscious. So don't come and tell me, no, I didn't mean. No, we know what you meant. It came out. Rather, you didn't say anything at all than you saying it and then coming out and telling me.
Oh, you better say, yes, what I said that time, I said it. This was my state of mind. Now I have a better understanding.
Exactly.
So people will take you to be a virtuous person, that you realize your mistake, and you are now withdrawing your words, but you realize your mistake.
Your mistake. You see, and you're acknowledging the other person.
Yes.
And that's one thing we don't do a lot when there's conflict or when there's perceived conflict.
No, pride. You know, the spirituality of today does not talk about balance.
No.
It's the spirituality of today that rules the world today. Basically, Islam and Christianity and Islam do not talk about Ofonogu. They talk about mind over nature, lording it over nature. And once you lord it over nature, you can lord it over any other thing.
Yeah.
So because, yes, our people realize that by Ofonogu, some animals are made. You said it. You started by saying that before we came on the program, Dibio Charger, that some animals are meant to be food to other animals. And that is how nature is arranged in the ecological system. One thing feeds on another. And so it's an interchange system of interfeeding. And nothing has the absolute power to continually, eternally feed on the other. However, in nature, there is Ofonogu, in the sense that if you go to nature, you see that Animals don't hunt for game. Animals don't kill because they want to kill.
Yeah.
They hunt because they are looking for food. So when animals are filled, they don't go hunting for just anything. That is it. If a lion or a group of lions are well fed, you will pass in their midst and they will just be looking at you.
Yeah, and I've seen
And
videos
if
of
a
that
python
stuff.
is well fed, you will climb on it and pass. It will not hurt you.
Yeah. He just wants
So
to eat. That's it.
he just wants to eat. And so our ancestors followed that rhythm. That is why you have what you call nsoala, an arrow, offenses against the earth, Mother Earth. And they say the earth is mother. Allah Ani is mother. And what do you do with mother? You cherish mother. You preserve mother. Mother is precious. Neka. Mother is supreme. And so that's how we look at it. And so in the Mporo Abriba area, they will say, Anamunkese. That is to say, I am holding to Mother Earth. So once you are holding to Mother Earth, even the ancient traditional people went to the extent of creating buffer zones where if somebody commits a crime and the person runs into that particular place, that person is considered to be under the preservation of Ani. Nkese. So honor Nkese. Honor is under the protection of Mother Earth. Then the elders will have to meet, then make investigation of what happened. If the person is justified, is punished in accordance to his offense or her offense. If the person is not justified, then the right punishment will be given. These are the systems they created those days. Now, today's science began by moving away morality, moving away. And once you move away morality, ethics out of science, you say science is value neutral. Then science becomes the foundation of technology. Traditionally, technology was based on the principle of balance. However, by the time they said science was neutral, they now move science, move morality, move ethics out of science, meaning you can do anything, you're justified. Then that means that politics and leadership became value neutral as well. That's the kind of thing they gave to us in Africa. So Fela Sangin, he said, teacher, don't teach me nonsense. You're supposed to talk. They know they talk. They are teaching, get different kinds of meaning. So anyhow that happens, it's good for us. Insofar as it's bad for us, it's good for them. So now, if you look at once science, politics, leadership are value neutral, then it means that we have breeded, what we have breeded are unbridled horses, unbridled elephants, unbridled animals that do not have sense of regulation. So they are capable of anything, and then they will justify it. So today, the problem of today is that the human being is not brought up on the principle of balance, cosmic balance, which is the foundation for environmental balance, societal balance, and self-balance. So that's the problem today. And the spiritualities of today are silent about it. Like, to summarize, like my James Hussein, my journalist friend, will say, he said he doesn't understand the prayer of today in the churches and the mosque. He said, all our prayers are one way. God, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. There is no question of God. Help my neighbor. It's my miracles on the way, my miracles on the way. God, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. No principle of justice. No, God. Please look at my heart and give me exactly, reward me exactly according to my purity. That's how our ancestors used to pray it. So that kind of spirituality is dangerous.
Do not bless me with what I don't deserve.
Where I say all I want, my favor, myself, and I don't balance it with the other. Spirituality is my miracle on the way. Anyhow I get it is a way.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, very well said, Dibia Chiedos here. It's just, I mean, the way you just summarized everything, so that our audience, including myself, add to our repertoire of understanding of what it is that we need to do, to be able to rise again. I always come back to the idea of Pan-Africanism, which is the idea that people of African ancestry, African descent, have common interests and should be unified, right? So how do you unify? How do you unify a people? Because we could discuss for the next 1,000 years what the problem is. And I think we've talked about it ad nauseum. And a lot of times that we've talked about it, we have failed to actually not only offer solutions, but to institutionalize it, right? And say, damn the consequences, damn the assassinations. You only live once. And sometimes you only have one opportunity to get the result that you want. And if you miss that opportunity, you're going to have problems for a long, long time. People of African descent must understand that our interests should unify us. What was that interest? I'm not even talking about a million interests. What's the core interest that should unify us? Elimination of racism. But you find yourself at a crossroads and a better understanding that that's impossible. You're asking for something that was never part of humanity. Racism was never part of humanity, but conquering other races and conquering other nations and conquering other peoples has always been part of it. In fact, it started with one family conquering another family so that they could have a larger area to hunt. They hadn't started grazing yet. I mean, let's be real. People went out, resources were scarce. Not only were resources scarce, you had to fight the wild animals. In North America, it could have been a bear. If you're up north, the Eskimos, Alaska, it could be a grizzly or a polar bear. In Africa, you're dealing with lions and leopards and rhinos, hyenas and stuff, or pythons. Crocodiles, Australia, Singapore, India, South America, jaguars. You're dealing with anacondas. You're dealing with all kinds of stuff. You got competition. Then nature is gonna give it to you too. You got earthquakes. You got nature after your blood, and they ain't got no racism in its heart. But nature has to destroy sometimes to rebuild. And if you're in the way, that's too bad for you. The world is not going to stop because you're getting hurt. The hurricane is not going to change course because you're having a picnic with 5-year-olds from kindergarten. So because they're little babies, hurricane is going to avoid it because hurricane doesn't want to kill the child. Really? That's what you think? You think if you climb a tall tree in a storm, that the chances of lightning striking you there is not, multiplied? The world is a Serengeti. OKDB always says that to me. Only the strong survive, y'all. In the Serengeti, you got animals that are just food for the lion. Choose. Are you an antelope? Or are you a lion? What are you? Choose. You want to be eaten? Or do you want to eat like the lion? Choose. Do you want to sit at the table and dine with kings and represent who and what you are and your contributions to civilized behavior? Or do you want to get under the table like a dog and hope that your owner, your colonizer, your enslaver will throw a bone so you could grab it under the table? Make up your mind. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. But it takes you to die to get there. You want freedom, but you don't want to fight for it. You want respect, but you don't want to do anything to get that respect. You want this, you want that. Let my people go. You spend centuries begging for somebody to get their jackbooks off your throat so that you could at least try to take care of yourself. You have been socialized through colonization and slavery to think that you need somebody else to grant you freedom, to give you the courage to live. You embrace somebody else's ancestor and walk around here with your doctorate degree and think you're somebody. Abraham is the father of humanity. Really? What about his dad? Whose father is that? What about his granddad? As a matter of fact, what about Adam and Adam? Isn't he the father of humanity? Where's the conflict? What came first, the egg or the chicken? You decide. We have forums like this and we talk about what we need to do as people of African ancestry. And we take it seriously in our ministry, in everything we do. And we try to cover politics, prosperity, education. We talk about religion. We talk about economics. We talk about how everything is tied in together. We're just talking about Einstein and the 22 alphabets of the, Jewish letters. He just talked about that. And when you see the correlation, you understand that it's really a disservice to create a distinction between religion and science. After all, when God parted the Red Sea, it's all magic because it just happened. But have you ever thought that there was a process involved in the parting of the Red Sea? Do you think there was something else involved in that? Or you think the parting of the Red Sea was just happened without any process behind it? Because if there was no process behind it, it wouldn't happen. Would it? This is Nkomi. This is deep thinking. Look beyond the microscope. It's 2025. What you've been taught all your life is a lie when it comes to people of African ancestry, when it comes to our history. How much of our history were whitewashed in Europe? How many of us knew that a whole bunch of saints and figures in the Catholic Church were Black? How many know that? How many of you know about Patricia Bath with the LASIK eye surgery? How many of you know that 75% of all scientific discoveries in this world was done by Black folks? Till today, how many of you know that the smartest people in the world have been identified as people of Igbo ancestry? Does that make me inferior? It's 2025. We're killing it in the classroom in Europe. We got doctorate degrees stringed to our names as handles, but totally ignorant about the spirituality of our race. And we wonder why, like you mentioned, zombies, perambulators, run around in circles, chasing our tails, talking about somebody else's economic system, somebody else's politics, somebody else's measure of dignity, human dignity, somebody defining you as less than human. Not just here in the United States. Go look at the history of Congo. Tell me if Leopold of Congo ever considered any African human while amputating their legs and arms because they didn't meet quotas. What evidence do you need to see and understand that the fate of the African in the motherland is tied into the faith of the Jamaican, the African American, and any African anywhere in the world? We have to be unified in our thought process. We envision a unified African nation where all people of African diaspora can live. We need Wakanda. We need that kind of mindset. What makes you think it's impossible to create our own version of, and I'm quoting Dubai because they did it first, the way they did it? What about nations like Chongqing, the city of Chongqing, in China? We can build, we can showcase African architecture, we can showcase everything about Africa, modernize it. But you have to have a certain mindset. You have to understand, when D.B. Chiadozie was talking about religion and how important it is, we have to understand that all human systems are product of religion. From science, educational systems, civic systems, political systems, they're all products of religion. Because the first realization that any human being had, spiritually speaking, based on my spirituality, based on chiism, the first experience you had when Chineke created you was a realization that life-sustaining forces was not your creation. The air you breathe, the food you eat, the animals you hunt, everything that sustains you in this world, you didn't create it. So you figured something else was responsible for it. God became automatic in your mindset. Religion became automatic in you. So in your mind, you feel that you have a duty of supplication to this entity that sustains you. Religion became automatic. That is the etymology of religion. That's what it means. Religion is not Christianity. These are philosophies, man-made, not based on any relationship with nature, not based on the realization that the air you breathe, the animals and all that. Go look at Genesis. Go read it. When was the last time Adam and Eve got on their knees and prayed to God in the Bible? How many times did they pray? He spent most of his time in the Garden of Eden challenging God. Should he challenge God? Or is he challenging himself? Can you question God if something doesn't sit right with you? Or should you just accept it and say, well, that's just the way it is. I can't control it. When deep down, you could have been able to control it. But the problem you had is that you separated yourself from God. You put God up there somewhere, difficult to get to. And you forgot the one that is right here in your heart, in your head. The one that talks to you, the one that tells you what to do in times of trouble, what is right or wrong. The one that tells you, thou shalt not kill. It's not right to do it. Moral character that you got when you were born from your mama and your daddy, particularly your mother, that breastfed you. All human beings, consciously or unconsciously, looks up to something above themselves as their source of inspiration. And to a lot of us, that something is Chineke, Olodumare, Yahweh, Jehovah, God, Ubangiji, Tamona, Uvuzulele, Nkulu. Whatever you want to call Chineke in your language, it's the same thing. We don't speak the same language. Just because I say Chineke doesn't mean that if you say Allah, you're talking about something else. You're talking about the creator, the same creator. The only difference is your conjecture of what that creator is. Did God send you to go to Africa and spread your religion? You justified it with your religion. We couldn't justify it with ours. What kind of God are you praying to? A lot of stuff in your religion has nothing to do with me as an African. Adam and Eve cannot be the first man and woman in the world because human migration didn't start from what's that? What you call the Middle East, which doesn't exist anyway. It didn't start in Nazareth or whatever, Jerusalem, all that stuff. It started in South Central Africa. Spread east, spread west, spread north, all that stuff. Before that, we had the Pangean. where we're all connected. And then through seismic, events, separated everything. So you got the same dinosaur in South America that you have in Africa when you look at the fossils, but I know good and well those dinosaurs didn't swim across the Atlantic Ocean. They couldn't have. It wasn't possible. We owe it to ourselves, particularly now, looking at the events in the world, to start looking inward, as our forefathers, like the Ahians and the Nkrumahs and all these people were telling us. We have to unify. And as Dibia Chiedozie had mentioned, one of the most important aspects of unifying a people is language, common language. And it is that common language that you could put in textbooks so that you could see the world from your own perspective, both historically, which now allows you to project the future and see the present for what it is. We owe it to ourselves to understand that we've been lied to. We cannot say that God is good and perfect and at the same time charge him with making a mistake by creating the diversity. A cat is a cat, but do you suppose that the reason why a jaguar is a little different from the lion, does it have anything to do with the environment, even though they're both cats? Is there a reason why in Europe you're white, in Africa I'm still dark, like I've always been? Does it have something to do with nature, adaptation, evolution, so that I could fit into my environment, so my environment doesn't kill me because I'm too exposed to the hot sun or to the cold in the north? What consideration goes through our mind when we're thinking about events and our condition and how to resolve our issues? Why do we consider nation formation a sin? But the Romans did it. Genghis Khan did it. Britain did it. The United States did it, still doing it. France did it. They all did it. Why is it okay for them to do it? And it's not okay for you to establish yourself as an economic and political social powerhouse? We always look for stuff outside of ourselves, just the way we look for God outside of ourselves. In Africa, we talk about our economic future, and we look at our economic future outside ourselves, and we depend on other people to build us and give us validation. We forget that under the ground, on the great continent of Africa, Okebulani, our resources so practically finite that it will blow your mind, from diamonds to gold to uranium to name it. There's lots of technology in the world today that is not possible without Africa. We fed, and continue to feed the West. France's economy is in turmoil. Why? Because a great nation of Burkina Faso decided that to be Pan-Africans was important. And that at some point in our fight for relevance, courage has to be the foundation of everything that we do, because without it, you ain't moving. If you're scared of persecution, even though you've been persecuted for centuries, and you're still crying about it now, still begging for relevance for somebody who's been prosecuting you all this time to now grant you reprieve, we're out of our minds. The slave owner ain't giving up the slave. They'll work you to death. They'll work you to death. They'll work your children to death. They'll work us to death. They're going to invade Africa again. But the way they'll do it this time, they will make us eat each other up. And we will be hailing them for destroying us. That Stockholm syndrome is going to be like a halo around our heads. Yes, master. Even though you kidnapped me, even though you're working me to death, but at least you're giving me 1 meal a day. You could have just worked me till I died without feeding me at all, or give me something to drink. But you forget that he's giving you 1 meal a day and giving you a glass of water all day, just so you be strong enough to come back the next day and do the same thing until you die. And you accept that. And we accept it. I look in Africa, I'm sorry I'm being long-winded, but we got this forum today, so we're going to talk about a whole lot of stuff. I look at Africa. I look at the educational system. What are we teaching? Mungo Park discovered the River Niger when there were people there already. And then if I tell you now, there were people there already, then you give me an F on my exam, even though I'm the one with the right answer. There were people there already before Mungo Park came. Columbus discovered nothing. But until internet came along and people started seeing the truth for what it is, or the lie for what it is, if I said that Columbus didn't discover America, I was going to get an F in an exam, even though I answered it correctly. You understand where I'm going with this? The truth can't be their truth. The truth has to be the truth. Whatever the truth is, and I'm not talking about your truth, whatever the truth is the truth. You can't change that. You might shove it behind and not let it come out for a while, but it's still there. And it's going to impede your progress because you're not being honest with yourself. You're not being honest with yourself that you have been miseducated. You fail to accept that. You fail to take a step back and say, you know what, let me just find out about my people. As a responsible citizen, it's imperative if you value yourself as a Black person, as an African. If you don't, then you're always going to espouse the characteristics or the plans, and whichever way you've been nurtured to respond to them putting their jack boots down your throat, you're just going to be like a puppet. Yes, master. Whatever they say, you do it. Just go, you could have a few $1 million in the bank. Steal generational wealth for your children. But the rest of Africa's children get nothing. Go to default. The future is bleak. What are we waiting on? There's such a thing as until it's too late. You understand? Because it's going to be too late at some point, and we're going to be right back to 1493. We're going to be right back to 1691. We're going to be right back to it. Here comes Kunta Kinte again. And this time when you start whooping him, I wonder what you're going to call him. Because things change. It ain't going to get better. It's going to get worse. And if we don't get a clear understanding, when we start feeling the efficiency of their demise upon us, of their distaste for us, we'll understand it and realize it, but then it will be late to do something about it. There was this feeling with Burkina Faso and everything, and Africa is rising, and we're all excited. I still am. We all are. But some of us were also saying, progress is too slow. This is the window to do something. The progress is slow, not in Burkina Faso, but for the rest of Africa to follow. We could have followed when Burkina Faso moved. They became Pan-African and we didn't follow. Niger, same thing. So on and so forth. We didn't follow them. We waited. And now all of a sudden, they're coming for you again. And I'm not going to ask you what you're going to do now, because it might just be too late. What are you going to do? It's not like you got the military to defend yourself. It's not like you got the intellectual understanding of how you got here in the first place to make a difference. I listened to a lecture my dad gave a long time ago, before, way back. He says that when the interest of the Arab is at stake, they rally around Islam. When the interest of the European is at stake, they rally around Christianism. When the interest of the Japanese is at stake, it's Shinto, so on and so forth. In India, it's Hindu, Sikhism, all their traditional religions over there. They rally around something. But the African rallies around nothing. What do you rally around? You rally around the same religions that justified your enslavement and colonization in the first place. That's where we are right now. And that's why it's easy for everybody to manipulate us, like Stephen Biko said it. My sister always reminds me. The greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. They got our minds. And until we exercise this ignorance, this idea that the death of who and what we are is acceptable to us. So I'm going to tell one story. The disappearance of the Africans, because when they come for you, they have no conscience. After all, they consider you less than human anyway. And I'm not talking about every one of them. You know who they are. I'm just talking about those with power. And you have to be concerned, because they're the ones that can wield that shield. You understand? They're the ones with the money. They're the ones that control the armies. They're the ones that will come and invade you. And you can't do nothing about it because you spent all your time bootlicking and never spent time to develop your systems, your culture, your religion, your science, your everything. Like Einstein. I was at the United Nations having a conversation with some scientists. And the scientist was talking about the Big Bang theories and all that, and how religion has nothing to do with it. I simply asked him one question. Can you prove to me that God was not responsible for the Big Bang? Mr. Science Man couldn't. Because it didn't matter how he tried to explain the Big Bang. It was a process. It might be magical. Big banged. The parting of the Red Sea, turning water to wine. Everything requires some kind of process. I just asked him. There's a process involved in this. Now, can you tell me it had nothing to do with God? Because as far as he was concerned, you cannot separate science from religion. They're interwound one way or another. You can't separate it. So let's appreciate ourselves. We have no institutions. We don't have museums in Africa that talks about what our ancestors contributed. When you talk about Africa, for the most part, when you talk about museums and stuff like that, you're talking Egypt. I mean, how many people knew about the Benin Wall that was like 9,000 miles long? How many people knew about that? But you know about the Great Wall of China. Who's telling your story? Where are the institutions, the universities, the businesses? Where are the monuments built to extol our ancestors and Chineke and God? Where? We travel all over the world. I'm going to see the Taj Mahal in India. I'm going to the Great Wall. I'm going to the Vatican. I'm a Muslim, so I'm going to pack up my stuff. I'm going to Mecca. I'm going here. I'm going here. You're leaving to everybody else's stuff. And the only thing I want from you is to come and hunt lions and kill your lions, kill your wild animals, keep trophies on their walls. That's it. Where in Africa do you have a monument for the black man and woman? Where's the monument you have for the, what do you call them? The Aminas, the Queen of Udongos. I'm not talking about just a statue. Where are they celebrated as icons in Africa? Institutionally, where? Achebe and some of his friends built a museum. I think it was in Owerri or somewhere. The governor went and knocked the thing down and then built statues of Salif Johnson of Liberia and a bunch of other eggheads who call themselves African leaders. What's his name? Rojas Okorocha or some idiot like that. I mean, these are people you call leaders.
There's Rochas Okorocha.
Yeah. Really? I mean, the whole thing
he built the status of his friend.
You can understand how, how the Nkrumahs and the Marcus Garveys, how these men felt when they were fighting for us, hoping that we will, at some point, understand that ain't nobody doing anything for you if you don't do it for yourself. Nobody is coming to save you if you don't save yourself. Learn how to swim. We're all up in here in the ocean on a boat with life vests on. Something happened to that boat, we capsize. We can float, but underneath that boat, you got some sharks in there. And with your life vest, those sharks will get you and eat you. That's what we're doing. What do you say, Divya does here? I know I've rambled on for a little while, but I had to get some of these things out, and I wasn't trying to structure it. I just needed to empty my chest a little bit here. Feel free to do
said
the
a lot, a whole lot. He said a whole lot. Yeah, but the message is clear that we can move forward if we do not know exactly what is the engine that drives us. We can't run away from it. Yeah. No one can do it but us. And no one can rescue us from the slave mentality but us. No other person can love you better than you do.
You see.
So, and like on the point you ended, I usually make comparison between Martin Luther King's dream and Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. And when people ask me, how do I evaluate these three? I usually classify Garvey and Malcolm X together.
Yeah.
And what do they represent? They represent total and absolute self-realization.
Amen.
Building our own civilization based on our spirituality and understanding of who we are.
Yeah.
And I usually look at Martin Luther King's dream as that of looking for a space within the system created by the colonizer. Because except I misunderstand Martin Luther King, you can correct me. Because it's about a dream that one day the children of the former slave owners and the former slaves will eat and wine and dine in the same ship, on the same table, in one banquet. And I usually ask the question, well, if the banquet is in a ship, and as usual, there are the bad times on the sea, when the tempest times of the sea, when the tides are against the ship. And if the condition for the ship to survive is to sacrifice some human cargoes, whose children will be sacrificed. And let's not forget that the parameter and every organogram of this banquet will still be determined by the children of the former slave owners.
Yeah. Well said.
So, for me, if we want to liberate ourselves, I usually say we have to combine the message of Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And what is that message? The message, when we combine these three perspectives, is that first we must understand who we are. But understanding who we are isn't enough for us to survive in the world. Because in the world, you must understand three things before you can prosper. You must understand your own self, but you don't have to understand your own self alone. You have to understand your own self in tandem with the terrain and in tandem with the totality of who the other is. So understand yourself, understand the order, because you are always playing with the order, and then understand the terrain. Make it your own understanding. And that understanding may not be comprehensive enough, but by the time you begin to tangle with the order, and then you begin to look and punch holes in the system of the order, then you do a SWOT analysis of yourself. You begin to identify your strong points and your weak points. You make your strong points stronger and make your weak points strong. And over time, you improve. And you keep improving your knowledge of who you are in tandem with knowledge of the order and knowledge of the terrain. The stronger and more courageous you become, the more resilient become your ideas and your technology and your commerce. That's the way we'll go about it, because there is no time that we go it alone with the knowledge that we have just for ourselves and prosper. You must always try to know about the order and the terrain. And knowing the order means you have to understand how the order also understands you, and how the order evaluates self. What is the understanding of the self by the order? And what is the understanding of the terrain by the order? Then what is the understanding of you by the order?
Mm-hmm.
Asians have done this. The Europeans did it to us, and they anchored it on anthropology. That's how they defined who we are for us. And when they defined who we are for us, we were not there. It was their own understanding, and their own intelligentials and intellectuals developed that order, from philosophy to literature to sociology to science to all walks of life to spirituality, such that their Bible and their Quran contain nothing good about us except that we are slaves. Their philosophy say nothing good about us except that we are beasts of burden. Their literature say nothing good about us other than we are half beast and half human. Joseph Conrad and the Heart of Darkness. And Levi Brown said, the African is incapable of philosophy, because the less philosophy a work is, the more African. And the more African a work is, the less philosophy. So we are not capable of philosophy. And then we say we have no theology, because a people who have no notion of God cannot have theology. We are. It's not only us that they did this to. They also did it to the Asians. I give you an example. Then
they did.
Example, I illustrate. Immanuel Kant, one of the prominent German philosophers. In fact, Kant built German philosophy. Before him, there were the Christian Wolffs, who was the first to write philosophy in German. Kant was the second philosopher to write philosophy in German. And it was a deliberate national enthusiasm, national patriotism, what we call national philosophism. Because before then, there was only one language for Europe. It was Latin. When Joseph Chaucer wrote Canterbury Tales in the 15th century, it was said to be a waste of time, because English, Yorkshire English, was considered not to be fit for intellectual transaction. Same thing from when Kant wrote philosophy in German. German language was considered to be unfit for intellectual transaction. Yet they went ahead and wrote in German. Why? One, spirituality. And so by the time you come to Heidegger, Heidegger says that German language is the most spiritual language in which to philosophize. He grudgingly granted a place to the Greeks, grudgingly. And so Kant defined the human races in his anthropology from a pragmatic point of view. The race of races, stem brunette, whom no one can compare with the model of the models, German. Then first race, European. Only they are good in the science and technology and the arts, only the Europeans. Second race, Mongoloid, Asia. They are tricksters. They are only good in the arts, but never good in the sciences and technology. Well, the Asians have proved them wrong. Not by doing something which I will come back to. Third race, Senegambia, African. We are neither good in the arts or the sciences. We are talkative and appetitive. The only superior gene we have is multiplication. We breed like rats. And so our weather is unfriendly. It doesn't allow us to think. The only thing that we are good in is beast of burden. So we can only be trained to ape other people. We can only be trained to ape other people. And this train means coercion. The type of thing that happens to Kintakunte. The type of thing that happened to Kintakunte in Alex Haley's The Roots.
Roots, yeah.
After 101 lashes, Kintakunte accepted that his name had become Toby. That's the kind of thing that Kant recommended in anthropology from a pragmatic point of view, because he wrote there that our skins are two quarks, and because our skins are two quarks, we are insensitive to horsewhip. So the best whip for us is the split bamboo cane. But when you take the bamboo cane, you split it, the sharp razor edge of it, you use it on our skin. When you use it on our skin, it will lacerate it. Then when we see blood pouring out, which is exactly what happened to Kintakunte, in science by training, we will accept for us to be trained in other people's ways. Meaning that the only thing the black mind is good at is aping, mimicry. And once you are mimicking, you can never develop.
You can't.
You can never develop once you are mimicking. Now, the fourth race, the Red Indians, he said those ones are good for nothing. So if you look at the pattern of colonization, Asia refused colonization. Why? Because Asia did one thing we did not do. Asia did not open its arm to the colonizers like we did.
Spirituality.
And why? Their spirituality encouraged them that they should not accept strangers in their midst without first understanding the spirituality of those strangers. And so if you look at when the revolution in Asia started in 1868 with the Meiji Inshin in Japan, the first thing Japanese did was to study the American, the European system, their spirituality, their science, their technology. And so they met and they asked themselves, what is it about these people's culture, the invaders, that they left the Americas, they left Europe and went through seas and came and bulldozed their way into Japan, dictated terms of trade and education to the Japanese. So they had to go clandestinely to study the spirituality of the Americans and the Europeans. And they discover one thing, that their spirituality is about domination. So they now had to make an antidote to it. Then the Chinese in 1948 did the same. And every Asian country that had to rise did the same.
Indonesia, Malaysia.
Malaysia. India revolution started 1954. And when it started, one thing that Indians did was to send their intelligence, just the same thing the Chinese did. Send already trained intelligentials and intellectuals who were first-class brains and professors back in Japan, back in India, back in China. They sent them as intellectual spies and intelligent spies all over Europe to prefer their science and technology. That's why you saw in the 1970s and 80s, America and Europe will close their libraries. Japanese professors and students, professors who were students in Europe and America will carry placards and say, open the library to us. We are poor Japanese, poor Chinese, poor Indian students. They were not students. The Americans knew that these were professors back in their homes. So while we were busy looking at the skyscrapers in America, they were busy piffering the spirituality and technology and science of the Americans and the Europeans. So is that at any time the Americans brought out any car with their tinkophone, this phone is better than that tinkophone. But they made sure it had camera, made their own at their own level of development. They will either, oh, can I see nice car? They snap. Even under, they will clip under with their suit and snap. They'll send it back to Japan. In less than 6 months, you see that car replicated in Japan at cheaper rates.
Yeah. You look at what China is doing right now with their lots of cars to compete with their Rolls Royce.
So now, we didn't do that.
Yep.
We did was to say we had no spirituality. Yeah. When we got independence, instead of us to go back to where we started from, where the white man met us, we decided to build colonial empires. And we came up with a lot of ideologies. And these ideologies, if you look at the intellectual, spiritual foundation of these ideologies, they were alien. Whether you call them Sikhism, Nkrumahism, Awoism, Ujamaa. The closest of them all is Ujamaa. But the problem with Ujamaa was that the center point of Ujamaa, African spirituality, was removed. Ujamaa was to be built on the principles of Arab Islamism and Euro-Christianism. Western education. So when Nyerere went to Canada, invited cultural experts, was involving the Chinese, and then brought experts in technology from Britain, another expert from America, he looked for trouble. He did not understand the African spirituality. That if you want to remove African spirituality from African culture and ideology, you will not have unity. What you are going to have is disunity. And that's what happened in Tanzania. It was a good ad. And so if you look at all of them, Zyx's neo-welfarism, Awo's democratic socialism, Nkrumah's conscientism. In fact, I did a particular work on Nkrumah's conscientism, where I showed that Nkrumah grossly misunderstood, even though he was a traditionalist, but he grossly misunderstood African spirituality by taking into the Marxist understanding of force, life force. There's a difference between force as studied in physics in the laboratory and life force. African ancestors did not talk about force. We're talking about life force.
Yes.
So force for us, force is just vibrations controlled by human beings. Life force is intelligence behind everything we do. So that's it. And then our own spirituality does not go by categorical conversion. It goes by way of integration, inclusivity. So the African spirituality abhors conversion. It wants things to be in the state that they are, to be understood and build bridges across.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to convert, what we Nkrumah needed to do was to go back to African spirituality. The ubiquitous nature of life force would naturally build the bridges. Today, if you go to Ashanti land, you'll find Christians and Muslims live in harmony. It is not categorical conversion that brought that harmony. It's African spirituality. If you come to Nigeria, you go among the Yorubas, the Yoruba people, up to the Esako people in Benin, Auchi land. You see that Christianity and Islam have become interwoven. In vain will you convince the Yoruba Christian to fight the Yoruba Muslim. It is not possible. In vain will you convince somebody from Esako, somebody from Auchi, who is a Christian, to fight somebody from Auchi or Esako, who is a Christian. Why? Because of their spirituality. It builds bridges across. So if you come to a typical Yoruba family, you'll find an Ifa priest. You'll find a Catholic priest. you find Aladura priest, you find a Muslim imam. All of them on Salah Day will go and eat the same food together. All of them on Christmas Day will gather and eat together. When they are doing their traditional feast, you will find the Christians and the Muslims. They are the first to come there and say, he said, but you people don't eat idol meat. He said, I've canceled all the idol in it in Jesus' name. They make jest. You see them making jest of the Catholic. Are you Catholic? You need bring cup so that you can drink the blood of Jesus and eat the flesh of Jesus. They will laugh. You can only find that in among the Yoruba, Esako, Ashanti axis setting. Why? The ubiquitous nature of life force has permeated the whole of this religion, and they have built one understanding such that you see today in Lagos and all over Yoruba land, every spiritual stronghold of the Yoruba have been rebuilt. Example in Lagos here, Fashola rebuilt all spiritual strongholds in Lagos. The Igunu, if you go to Bariga, we are not far from where I stay, you see that the Igunu something have been standardized. They are standardizing it, researching into it, standardizing it. And they know the time they wanted to bring this Boko Haram thing into Lagos, the Oba of Lagos is Muslim. He called a meeting and he said, look, our children have intermarried. If we allow the spirit of Boko Haram to come into Lagos and Yoruba land, we will kill ourselves. They threw it out. They said it will never happen. That is the African spirituality. We do not need any conversion. That was the mistake. What is wrong? That spirit of the Western education that our leaders, those who liberated us, the Ziks, the Nkrumahs, and so on, the only person I see that did not have that, overcame that is Ahain.
Yeah.
Every other of them that were politicians, they would not overcome the training they got in the West. But if you look at the Asians, those who liberated Asia were deep in Asian culture. They were not trained by the Westerners. They were trained by their own people. And so that's the first thing we must tackle in Africa, bringing up a new crop of Africans who, in the state of the likes of Ahain, Fela Nicola Pokuti, Chinua Achebe, the likes of Chinwezu, the likes of Okedibia, Uwa Onyoha, Yosemiri, the likes of Dibia, Ochuaja, Udemezwe, we have to bring up people like that, new, we have to catch them young. That is why we need chiism to grow from strength to strength. We must have a physical university in Africa where we begin to catch them young and train the future leaders. Confucius did that for Asia when he saw corruption. He did that for China. He left politics. He left the normal schools and became an itinerary teacher, teaching all over China, telling them to go back to their ancient past. That fructified in Mao. Plato did it for the West when he left politics and established the academy. And academy produced Aristotle, who produced the Lyceum. And it continued until Aristotle indoctrinated Alexander the Great, the king of Macedonia. And that's where Western civilization began, because the king of Macedonia was the first to conquer Egypt. And when they conquered Egypt, his general Ptolemy asked Aristotle, who was then a student in Egypt, what do you ask of me? He said, allow me access to the libraries and temples of Egypt. That's how Aristotle became an encyclopedic mind that wrote on virtually everything, because all he did was to take Egyptian texts that had no names of individuals appended to it. Knowledge and wisdom were considered to be communal repository. Aristotle began to append his names to the document. Today, we read that Aristotle was given money worth $400 billion in today's world to purchase books. From where did he purchase the books? If as of then, the only known civilization was Egypt. So these are the lies we have to pilfer and counter. But before we do that, we must establish it's a long, tedious process. It is not something we will win today. It's a battle that we must have a space. That's why I agree with you when you say we need a nation.
We did. Yeah, very beautiful points you just made, man. Very, very beautiful, points you just made. There's a guy, I'm sure you've heard of him, I respect him very much. My father respected him. There's a man, his name is Dr. Henrik Clark. You probably heard of him.
Yeah.
And Dr. Clark said that those things that sustained us must be continued. If you go to Brandeis University in Washington, they founded a university for Jewish people, have one of the best medical schools in the world for Jewish people, and it will stay that way. Now, if you want to attend the university, it's all good, but you're going to learn Jewish 101. But it also helps to promote understanding, so you could at least understand the Jewish people and whatever their fight is for, you could at least understand where they're coming from. You understand? So those things that sustained us before the European and the Arab came to our shores with the Quran and the Bible in tow must continue it. Educational system that we had, we must continue it. The difficulty we had is that colonization and slavery did not allow us the opportunity to grow like everybody else did. They stunted our growth. Our best hunters and scientists and builders and women were all taken away. Children, old people, all that stuff, and puppets that will serve the colonizer were left behind. Some of them giving guns. Now you're going to have to help us with this trade. If you don't, you're going to become part of it. We're going to enslave you too. Now going over there, round them up. There you see African Americans and some diaspora Africans talking about, oh, they sold us into slavery. No, they didn't. You just didn't understand the complex history behind what happened. You just don't understand it. You need to. You got internet now. Go do your research. If you want to attend Brandeis University, they will let you in, but you got to take that to Jewish 101 so you could have an understanding of their own purpose. Then you could become a doctor there and continue being a Muslim. They don't give a damn. They got your money anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's not free, is it? Even if you're on scholarship, somebody paying for it. So they're going to make their money. And then you've already learned Jewish 101. So you have a little bit of empathy to their cause. Nobody's taking African 101 anywhere else in the world to understand their own plight. Those things that sustained us must be continued. We just have to do it. We had educational systems in place before they came. They just kept us from reclaiming or taking our rightful place in the universe like everybody else. And the level of brutality that the African had to endure. Man, go watch some videos, y'all. Go read some books. Because some of you, especially the younger generation that grew up with Similac or whatever else, don't really have an appreciation of the price that those that came before us had to pay for us to enjoy whatever it is we think we're enjoying. They didn't all do a good job of it, but they tried. And a lot of them paid the ultimate price. And I feel that the younger people have no respect for those sacrifices. They always seem to want things already made, and then they just want to come and enjoy it. They forget the price that their own parents had to pay for them to enjoy whatever it is they're enjoying now. Somebody had to take the bullet from you. The greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Stephen Biko. Once they have your mind, they have you. You not justify your worth by standards that are not of your own. You have college degrees string to your names as handles, but you forget that if you're ignorant of the spirituality of your race, which is the fulcrum around which, the totality of human population gyrates, you're just a literate person. You could read a book, you're trained in your discipline, but you're alienated into the cultural vineyards of others. You're a glorified servant. With your PhDs and your doctorate degrees and your spaceships or whatever amount of billions you got in your bank account, you're not doing anything that says that the unification of the African is paramount, that we share common interest. You know, those of you that have money, the rich people and all that, exactly where is your money going in terms of this Pan-African mindset? Understanding that we all have this long-term, interest in unifying ourselves. I mean, look at Africa. And when I talk about, I'm talking about unify the educational system. There has to be a standard. Unify language. While we have diversity, there has to be a language that unifies all. These are the ways you unify people. Have your diverse traditional religions, but deal with the commonality amongst all these religions and have a central religion. So, excuse me, so that when the interest of the African is at stake, we have something to rally around, just like the Arabs rally around Islam, just like the Christians rally around, Europeans rally around Christianity, and Indians rally around Hindu and Sikhism and all that.
Sorry.
Have yours. People don't respect you because you're not showcasing anything. Just because you got some music, you're dancing around, you're getting into all that stuff. I've been to a place, OKDB and I think it was in 2018, something like that. We were hosted by, I think it was about 7 or 8 Ezes from all the Ezes in that whole of Omar, all those villages. They hosted us over there at their place. Our God, we broke the kola nut. And would you know it, at the end of breaking the kola nut, the Eze, the chief, says the king goes, through Jesus Christ our Lord. I'm like, through Jesus Christ our Lord, did Jesus eat kola nut? What are you talking about? We were breaking kola nut before Christianism came. How come all of a sudden we're not breaking kola nuts and we got to put him in there? Are you doing it so that the rest of us can appreciate breaking kola because you put Jesus into it? And if you remove the Jesus out of it, is it now voodoo magic? Do the Hindus not have their own incantations and prayer process? Do the Buddhists not have theirs? Do the Catholics, the Christians, the Methodists, the Baptists, do they all not have their own process in the supplication process? Don't they have their own ways? Don't I have the same rights as they do to have my own way and be appreciated for it? It's funny to me how the West can appreciate the Chinese history and education. They can't appreciate anything that comes from the Black continent. Think about that for a second. They could teach a whole lot of other spiritualities and philosophies in their institutions, but they ain't teaching none of yours. The only thing you know about your history is how I was colonized. Some of us Africans don't know anything beyond Vasco da Gama. Some of us in diaspora know nothing beyond Columbus in the Western Hemisphere over here. Everything we know about our history, our education is always about from the point of lack, beggars, borrowers, and followers. Master, please just allow me to eat some chicken leg. I'm tired of eating the chicken feet. Y'all always eating chicken feet. Can I get a little chicken, bro? Feet, leg. Begging for scraps under the table. But you got resources. They don't tell you that when you go to university. They don't teach you how great you are, what you contributed to science, to religion, all parts of human endeavors. We don't have institutions dedicated to people of Black ancestry the world over. Just one. Give me one. Let me go to Africa on a pilgrimage and go to a place where my ancestors are solidly anchored because we built a monument to our history and their greatness. Let the world come to Africa, Black Africa. It ain't always got to be Egypt. Don't just come to Africa because you think we party real good in South Africa. Come to Africa because there's something there that is part of the wonders of the world that has to do with your contribution to civilized behavior, your greatness. Showcase that stuff for at least one bit. Bro, sister, I like you love yourself. Try that. Love your big lips. Love your melanin. Love your nappy hair. Malcolm X said it. Love yourself just for one bit. And hold your head up high. And if you got to take it, take that bullet, take it. Somebody took it for you. Because if you don't take it, nothing is going to change. Freedom is not cheap. You don't come easy. I'm saying it, and I'm saying it on camera. Freedom is not cheap, my people. And when I talk about you got to fight for it, I'm not talking about the fact that you got to go out there and start blowing stuff up. That ain't what I'm talking about. We got to change the educational system. We got to watch the history we teach it. We have to stop punishing self-awareness. If I wake up one day, there's a saying where I come from. Your morning ain't got to be 6 o'clock a.m. It could be 2 p.m. That's when you woke up. That's your morning. That's when your day starts. Just wake up. And if you don't wake up, you're dead. You understand the parallels here? If you don't wake up, you're dead. If we don't get up, change the way we think, see value in ourselves, in our educational system, in our spirituality, develop a legal system wound around what our ancestors used to do to keep people on the path of straight and narrow, keep people on the path of rectitude, doing the right things. And those things came with religion. You got to understand that. The first attempt to shape human behavior was through religion before civic laws. Thou shalt not kill. It's relevant in every religion. There's no religion that says, it's okay for you to go around slaughter. If you want somebody, if you want something, just go kill, take it. It's all good. God will love you. No religion says that. Do you know anyone? Because if that's what your conjecture is, you're crazy. You're just like the thief my dad talked about, who prays before he goes to steal. And if he steals successfully, he thanks God for it. So what you think God is may not be what somebody else think God is. God is something else to everybody. He ain't the same. He ain't standard. The only thing that is standard is that you believe in some kind of supreme being. So call him Allah, call him Olodumare, call him what you want. Who cares? We're still talking about the same entity. The same thing. Nothing changed. We have to have courage to start building infrastructure, because infrastructure is good for everything. It's good for business. It's good for religion. It's good for education. It's good for everything. If you have solid infrastructure, good water promotes good health. It's medicine. Electricity is good health, promotes industry, telephone, communication, all that stuff. Satellites up in the sky. But in order to get to the point where those things can be developed in your environment, there has to be a level of pride in who or what you are. You have to have some kind of strategy, some kind of plan. 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan, 20-year plan, 50-year plan, whatever plan, depending on the urgency of the situation, whatever that situation is. The plan don't have to be standard for all plans, for different projects. But you got to have a plan. And what I noticed when we talk in Nigeria and all that, I don't see people talking about plans. You don't hear from the government. Our 10-year plan is to make sure that in 10 years, every village has electricity and actually do it. Have they ever finished River Niger? The Niger Bridge that they've been building since I left Nigeria. Trying to build a new bridge. And if we do build a bridge across the Niger River, we will make such a big deal of it that we built this straight line bridge over the River Niger. Go to China and see bridges. You ain't seen nothing. They could build a bridge over a little pond that is 100 feet wide, and the president will be there to cut the tape of that bridge and act like he did something. They will budget $100 million for the bridge. They will build a $2 million bridge. And the other 98 going in their pocket. They don't have your interest at heart. But I hate to inform you that the leadership that you have is a reflection of you. You didn't ask for better. You didn't demand better. And when they deviated from the path of rectitude, you didn't put your foot down. You accepted the fact of, well, that's the way it is. And so you do. What can I go do, Kwame? What can I do about it? It's just the way things are. So, if being a thief is the way to go, then, hey, man, free for all. Let's all go get that goddamn money. If being a killer is the way to go to get it, rapist, you want to have a prostitution, whatever it is to make that money, Yahoo boys, let's go. Because that's what we value over our humanity.
If you can't beat them, you join them.
Join it. Thank you, sir. Exactly. That's what we find ourselves. If you can't beat them, join them. Go ahead. Be the toast of town. Make it rain in parties. Because that money is stolen money, so you don't know the value of working hard to get it. I've never seen, what's his name? The richest black man in the world. What's that? Dangote. Worth $30 billion. I've never seen him in a party doing that. I ain't seen Oprah Winfrey doing that. I don't know of anybody that work hard for their money that stands there and making it rain. You just go there making it rain. And okay, let's say you play basketball. You bounce up and down, you dunk it, they're paying you a lot of money. So you go to some party, you want some girls, so you want everybody to see you, so you can make the men jealous of you and your money, and the women leave their husbands and their boyfriend for you. You're the man now. What other reason do you have to show us exactly how empty you are when it comes to your character? Now, if you're doing it because there's a wedding and you're doing it for the bride and the groom, fine. But you don't have to sit there being obscene. And I'm not trying to juxtapose anything. Maybe a little bit. But the Italian mafia, when they're getting married, every mafia guy puts money in an envelope, walks up to the bride, kisses the bride on the cheek, hands the bride the cash, shakes the husband's hand, and walks out. Oh, you could give the bride some money and the groom some money. You could do whatever you want to, but you don't have to be there letting the whole world know that you're stupid. You can do the same thing. It's the obscene nature of it and the message that is conveyed when we do stuff like that. When we take a video of a drug dealer who got executed in Malaysia for drugs, then comes back to Africa, gets buried in his Rolls Royce in the ground, and everybody's going, oh man, it was the greatest funeral. I mean, where do you start? My thing is simple. Courage is everything, because it is courage that will allow you to speak up. It is courage that will allow you not to be slapped down. It is courage that will allow you to change things. It is courage that will allow you to change the educational system. It is courage that will allow you to examine your history. It was courage that will allow you to examine the world the way it is right now. It is courage that will help you see solutions to your problem. And it is courage that will help you rise up. And right now, that's what we need to do. Because the walls are closing in. one semblance of hope that we had was that Burkina Faso. But I'm afraid that this Christian thing going on in the world versus Muslims and all that is going to offer the right excuse for some folks to destabilize that region and slow down the progress that is being made in Burkina Faso. I have a question on the screen, and it's by Aka Chineke, and she says, I'm concerned that Trump is talking about taking action in Nigeria over Christian persecution. What is the Nigerian people and government saying about this? Well, from what I understand, they're actually rejoicing. And you could tell that the people that are rejoicing, now don't get me wrong, okay, I need to stress something that I think is very important here. And that is the fact that, believe me, if somebody was coming to save people from Boko Haram, the people in the north would be happier than ever for somebody to help them out. Because they don't like Boko Haram too. So when you go in there fighting, make sure you're distinguishing between civilians and Boko Haram. Because right now in Venezuela, I don't see any distinction between innocent fishermen and cartel. And I'm not the only one of that opinion, but that's just the way it is. It's out there in the news. And I'm not being critical of anything. All I'm saying is anybody that is rejoicing over the prospect of invasion of Nigeria has to understand that it's the beginning of the downfall for Africa. You know, we've experienced assassinations. African leaders have been deposed, Kwame Nkrumahs, the Patrice Lumumbas, great men like Stephen Biko and all that stuff. Hines, so many times they try to silence him and marginalize him in terms of politics and all that. But he never fought it. He just stayed. And he survived it. Died at the age of 80. Personally, to me, not because he's my dad, because I know a lot of people have respect for their fathers, because their fathers are great men, raised family, did good things and all that stuff, honest men and all that. Yeah, people are high on their parents sometimes. Not all the time, but most of the time. I am high on mine too. But I could say this. Just me now. Somebody might have a different opinion. The greatest African that I've ever met is my father. I don't care who it is in this world. You will never convince me. And this is not based on the fact that he's my dad. It's what he stood for. You cannot convince me there was a greater black man in the world than Ahai Keokonyo. You can't convince me of that. My fear now is that when we have jubilation about this kind of news in the South, what message are we in the South now sending to the North? Because remember, most of the people that are being killed by Boko Haram are Muslims, their own people. They just bust into a village, massacre 200 people, nobody cares. How do you differentiate when you start to clap about stuff like this? How you know that innocents are not going to pay dearly with their life? That is my fear, and that is my concern. And that's my answer to that question. What do you think, we have 7 minutes left. Then
I just point at 2 or 3 things. One, whatever decision Trump is taking over Nigeria is engineered by Christians in Nigeria. And it's unfortunate that it's only the card they can play for the world to intervene in the heinous crime going up here in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I remember, was it 2 or either last year or 2 years ago, Hassan Kuka, who is a Catholic bishop of a Catholic diocese in Sokoto, was in America to report what was going on. The gradual land grabbing in Nigeria by the Fulani militias what you call Boko Haram is Fulani militia. What is going on here is Fulanization of Nigeria, not even Islamization. Islam is just a tool. It is exactly what Uthman Danfodio did in the 18th, 19th century that has been reenacted. And that's why I said Obama brought these upon us, because Obama knew about the agenda of Buhari, that Buhari, to become Nigeria's president, had no choice but to kowtow with Boko Haram. As of when Goodluck was there, and I blame Goodluck for much of what is happening today, because he failed to understand the reports that were before him. He did not understand the antics of the Fulani. He didn't understand the history of Fulanization process. And so most of the reports that were there before him, it was too late in the day when he began to take steps. And so before he would wake up, he was already a mass and surrounded. So he had no choice but to hand over. And it started when Obama and Cameron noticed that Jonathan did not only reject legitimizing gay practice in Nigeria, he passed a bill against it. So they cooked up the Chibok girl thing. All the Chibok girl thing and all that, where America and Britain and the foreign powers were behind it.
Of course.
They were behind it. And it was meant to make Jonathan unpopular and bring in Buhari. And of course, by the time Buhari rode on the back of Boko Haram to win presidency, exactly a week after his victory, before the gubernatorial election, because there was a two weeks gap between the presidential election and the gubernatorial election. Now, Buhari held a secret meeting in the Ariwa House in ABU, Ahmadu Bello University in Kaduna. Ben Wabeze was still alive. Ben Wabeze challenged Buhari and the Ariwa House that they had a Boko Haram agenda and a Fulanization agenda, to which response had not been given to today. That was when Ben Wabeze and some other people had to call in Nnamdi Kanu to start the Biafra agitation. That's the foundation of bringing in Nnamdi Kanu, arresting him, and positioning himself, and starting the Biafra agenda as a counter. Then the Odua people started their own. And so, and
they're playing us
the
like
only
fiddle.
way they could think, because it's a big project. The Arab nations are behind the Fulanis, and Britain is there, clandestinely behind them. They don't care whether we die or not. All they care about is the mineral resource they are interested in.
That's it.
The Germans are busy mining gold and mining Californium. Californium is the most expensive mineral resource in the world today. And the whole place they call the Sambisa forest. There's no forest there.
Yeah.
There's no forest. What you have there is a cantonment of Fulanis built by Babangida with Nigerian oil money. And these things are being funded by America. When Trump came in, was sworn as Nigerian president, that was when we were open to the fact that the whole funding of Boko Haram came from Obama administration and Clinton's administration. So the angle of Christianity is the only way that the Nigerians can make the American government to come in to check Boko Haram. However, that is the face, just like the Fulanis use religion to come in and say, they said the Northerners were ungodly as of that time. The same way they are saying we are ungodly. The only way we can be godly is to accept Islam, the version of the Fulanis.
Yeah. Well, so we're almost out of time now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they brought in Ruga. They brought in all of that. So the antics there is that the Americans aren't coming in for our own interest, be it Trump or whoever. Because in the first instance, when Christianity came into Africa, it was not for our interest. It was for the interest of the colonizer.
Exactly.
And so nobody comes in to rescue for our own freedom. Just like the Russians are there in Burkina Faso, they are there in Niger, they are there all over. They are not there for the interest of Burkina Faso, of Niger, of Mali. They are there for the interest of
Russia. That's it.
So we are still, head or tail, we are still boxed into that lack of courage, which you have talked about. Asking foreign powers to come to our rescue, the inability to coordinate ourselves, have a common front, and rescue ourselves. And until we do that, upon one spirituality, one voice, one language, we will always ask for foreigners to come and rescue us to our own detriment and to the glory of the foreign powers.
I can't surmise that any better myself, and I'm going to leave it at that. Just how you put it, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. I think that we spoke from the heart. We did not make notes. We spoke from love. We spoke from a place of frustration. And we spoke from a place of courage. And we spoke from a place of duty. This is a duty that we feel compelled to perform. We're not doing it for fun. We're not doing it for notoriety. We're not doing it for wealth. We're doing it because we feel that we are the last bastion. We are the last defense against ignorance. We are the future. We are the hope for all Africans and, quite frankly, for all humanity. African spirituality, chiism, can be applied on any level. All religions share things in common. The only difference between all religions is the process of supplication, not the idea that all people believe that there's something greater than themselves, and that something is the Almighty Chineke. God bless. Yagazie to all. Have a good day.
Sekudala situlisi